I am happy to report I have found more totally new RTS games, my fellow fans, like the Scouring. This indie game is based on a war between humans and orcs, and yes, it does remind a lot of Warcraft, something the developers are well aware of. This game will have all the expected features from a base building and unit combat real-time strategy game, and then some, as you will be able to use modding tools to make your own maps, AI scripts and even custom game modes, and then share these with other players using the Steam Workshop. What the developers plan to release the game with isn't a story campaign, but skirmish and multiplayer for up to 8 players, along with what they call an action RPG strategy mode. What this means is that you get a hero to customize, equip with gear, and then use their abilities in fast-paced combat, while the AI manages your army, resources, and bases. I think this is very brave, considering the fact that about 75% of RTS players are focused on playing single-player campaigns, and don't really care about the multiplayer aspect of such games. You can tell me what you think about this in the comments below, while in the description you will find a link to this and every other game in this video. Since I know you're hungry about any news of D.O.R.F, I had to show you this new footage, which is about its world of old wrecks and derelicts, but also shows some building capture mechanics and different units. This indie title is set in a very twisted version of the future, where 3 unique factions fight over the scraps and resources while building massive bases made up of not just unit production buildings, but also factories, refineries, walls, and defensive structures. These are fed by supply lines and logistic networks to ensure that the raw materials needed for production are transported from fields of scrap, oil derricks, and other types of resource fields. It is there that we find these massive old derelicts, some of which remind of the units these factions are able to construct, like massive double zeppelins, tall tank mech hybrids, and the like. This gameplay footage also shows the mechanics of capturing both resource buildings and civilian structures, which not only change color as infantry units garrison them, but also get sandbags and barbed wire added to them. Keep in mind that these developers are hard at work making D.O.R.F, and I do talk to them regularly, so until they send me more new footage and I make a new full showcase of its gameplay, you can watch the previous such detailed video linked up here and down in the description. Now, there is a very good reason why releasing a game too early is not a good idea, and why the developers of D.O.R.F are keeping to when it's done approach. This is something I was hoping for with the newest massive RTS, which also includes a lot of logistics, but the developers of Industrial Annihilation jumped the gun and went into early access on Steam with a very bare bones game. I have played it myself and plan to talk more about it in a dedicated video, but for now I have to stress just how early, too early in fact, has this version of the game been released for sale. I have defended these developers despite some bad decisions they have made with the previous game release, because I really expected them not to make the same mistake twice. So far, it seems I was wrong. First mistake in my book is releasing a game with a complex system of resource extraction, refining, and logistics of moving dozens of different items around the map with only a text-based tutorial. What is currently available to play beyond the multiplayer are 4 scenarios, but they all play very similar, with you using the commander unit, which is your builder, to first set up basic and later more complex resource chains, until you're able to bring all those refined resources to unit production buildings using a system of conveyor belts. There is power production to generate the energy these buildings run on, and there are also shields and stationary guns, but other than having the basic structure of the game down and working, there is no more content in this release. I still have hope that this base gameplay can work really well and be fun to a lot of players, but what we have now is only an advanced demo, and making people pay for it isn't good for the future of the game. To put this early access release of Industrial Annihilation into perspective, let's compare it to the upcoming early access release of Endeavor Rite of Passage, which is a futuristic RTS title made by a solo indie dev coming out on the 14th of January. Not only is this game going to be cheaper than Industrial Annihilation, it didn't have a Kickstarter campaign to fund it, while it does have a full single-player campaign made up of 21 missions and 14 skirmish maps. There are 3 distinct factions, each one made up of totally different units and super weapons, but using the same system of a dozen superpowers unlockable during each match. An extra feature are unit upgrades, which are researched in their production buildings, adding extra fire or combat modes to units. There are infantry, vehicles and air units, but no navies. The developer even plans to add more gameplay modes and new skirmish maps. This game has a passionate developer who is quick to incorporate feedback into his game, but zero marketing. I hope many of you will share his game with your friends and wishlist it on its Steam store page. As you can see, passionate solo developers can sometimes do more than entire studios, and nowhere is this more obvious than in the modding scene, where a small team of incredibly talented Warcraft fans have recreated full campaigns from Warcraft 3 in the StarCraft 2 engine.
Your orders, mistress.
This project is called Azeroth Reborn, and you can play it on the campaigns section in the StarCraft 2 under the custom selection. They have overhauled the UI, improved the terrain, added faster game speeds, better pathing and time indicators, the ability to toggle upkeep on and off, and even some of the originally cut voice lines. You can play the prologue, Exodus of the Horde, as well as the Human campaign, the Scourge of Lordaeron, Undead campaign, Path of the Damned, Orc campaign, the Invasion of Kalimdor, my favorite, Night Elf campaign, Twilight of the Gods, and Sentinels campaign, Terror of the Tide, with the Alliance campaign coming in summer of 2025. Their website and Discord server links are in the description below, and I hope all you Warcraft fans like me will fully appreciate and enjoy these modders' hard work. I especially wanted to mention this mod after hearing that Blizzard and Microsoft have removed the old versions of Warcraft 1 and 2 from GoG in order to force players to buy the remastered versions from Battle.net. I have talked about the lacking options and features of this remaster in my previous RTS news video, so I won't spend time on it again. When it comes to news about Broken Arrow, we finally have a release date, which is June of 2025, and let's hope no more delays of the game. We also got a better look at the campaign gameplay with an in-depth developer interview. The single-player missions in Broken Arrow start in a sort of briefing room, in which we learn about the map location, the characters involved and the objectives. The maps are almost as large as those in the multiplayer and use the same system of control points, which you are tasked to defend or attack, but the borders can dynamically change as the mission goes on. The heart of the story is a conflict between the USA and Russia, so these are the armies that are available to players. The unit deployment system is also similar to the one in the multiplayer open beta we got to experience, but of course here you fight a scripted AI enemy. A unit we haven't seen before is the gunship, which comes in from off-map and starts pounding enemy ground units from above with a cannon and missiles, which of course have limited ammo. The only thing that bothers me is that the amazing graphics these developers worked on so hard to create go to waste in a gameplay that is played almost entirely at max zoom level. This was never the case with the Command & Conquer franchise and its games set in the time of modern conflicts, just with China being the major power opposing the USA in CNC Generals. But what you're seeing here is not the original Generals, but a Red Alert 3 mod called Generals Evolution. Its talented modder team is publishing a new version, 0.31, on the 24th of December, with brand new content like extra skirmish maps, new unit and structure abilities, improved balance, and quality of life gameplay additions like a much smarter skirmish AI. What you can expect in the future with this mod is for it to include missing 0-hour units, upgrades, abilities, and special powers, while the team wants to add Spec Ops missions and co-op missions known as challenges. You can download this mod and see the instructions to install it on their ModDB website, which I have linked in the description. If you have your own favorite Generals or Red Alert 3 mods, please share them with everyone in the comments. Another important date to remember in 2025 is the 24th of April, which is the release date for Tempest Rising. This info dropped in the release trailer, which also introduced for the first time the third faction known as the Veti. This secretive alien civilization hasn't been seen in any campaign or multiplayer footage, and it is top secret until the game's release. What little we know comes from an ultra-classified GDF report guessing that the Veti ruled over the humans a long time ago using Tempest fuel technologies until an event known as the Great Deluge resulted in a human rebellion and banishment of this alien race. Where did they come from? Well, probably from another planet or universe, as GDF and Tempest researchers found interstellar gateways. The units Veti will use are definitely Tempest powered and probably all sorts of mechs and machines. As for other totally new games I have found, I want to tell you a bit about an indie project currently titled Coloniser. It is based on a mix of sci-fi and ancient times because the humans have crash landed on a new planet but lost all their technological equipment, forcing them to revert to the age of fire, stone and metal. Its developers plan to make this game a foundation for a massively multiplayer RTS. In the gameplay mode they call the Colony mode, your progress continues even when you log off, while if your base is destroyed, you can rejoin that server and start over. The max player count here is 16 players with matches up to 90 days long. They even have a way for you to join its playtest on their Steam store page and have set a release date for 2025. I am not sure which subgenre of RTS games is more hazardous for developers to work on, this massive multiplayer one or the RTS FPS hybrid, but one thing is for sure, they are going to need a lot of luck and skill to pull this off. One new game's release I am a bit late on reporting is ICBM Escalation, which was released on the 21st of November by Slytherin and made by Soft Warfare. It is a grand war game which is more about showing you the simulation of global war on a massive map of the planet, but the combat is represented by models of units. Not only do you command these armies of units, including naval and missile ones, but develop new technologies and negotiate ceasefires or broker deals over captured territories using the diplomacy aspect. You can use your weapons of mass destruction in a number of game modes in ICBM Escalation. There is the standoff mode, Conquest, Blitz mode, but also a single-player campaign that starts at the beginning of the Korean War and moves past present times and into the future. Yes, there is even multiplayer for up to 10 players, with ranked play and an ELO system. I must admit skipping this game in the past, but several comments on my previous videos mentioned it and here it is now. So let me know, is it a type of a game you would enjoy playing? Next is a game I know you would want to play, according to so many positive comments about it across my videos. This is Empire Eternal, and I'm happy to share an update from its developer, which is about the boarding and debarkation of troops. The system of transporting your units by land and water is crucial, considering most maps in this game will have lakes, rivers or a sea in them, and helps to open up new strategies, making the game even more dynamic. It will work much like in other similar games, with an embark command and ships will have limited transport capacity. If sunk, all units aboard will be lost, but what is the biggest difference to past games is the combat system, because in Empire Eternal, ships do not shoot, but only units that are in them, meaning melee units automatically turn a ship into a boarding crew that has to get in really close to attack. I hope you will support the game with your wishlisting on Steam and the developer on his Patreon account. Before I move on to more new RTS games, mods and updates on those games still in development, let me mention just a few games on sale at Steam and GoG, but do keep in mind many more are discounted during the holiday season. On Steam, Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign is on sale, a game that brings together real-time combat in battles with a real-time campaign map management of cities and countries. It isn't easy, but it is a lot of fun. Manor Lords is set in similar times, but plays very differently, as both your settlements and armies are on the same map, and building is a key gameplay element besides the constant need for micromanagement of civilians and production. Northgard is a great game, rarely talked about, and it keeps getting new content, all which is on sale on Steam, including the newest Clan of the Turtle, while recently the Bifrost game mode was added. The last proper CNC game from Electronic Arts, the remaster of Command & Conquer and Red Alert, is also on sale with its 100 single-player missions and working multiplayer. It's ultra cheap now, so if you don't have it, no better time to get it. A much more recently released game that is an animal RTS called Empire of the Ants is just amazing to behold because of its Unreal Engine graphics, has fantastic music and gameplay that is very unique. When it comes to games on sale at GOG, there is another such game based on animals and a real-time strategy aspect titled Empires of the Undergrowth, and it too is a strange mix of combat and unit recruitment of insects. As for more regular games, Regiments is also on sale, but it is one of those war game types which is about tactical combat of many modern units on massive maps with armor, helicopters and planes. Not unlike Xeno Conflict, which is still my favorite such RTS game, and it is still relevant today considering its timeless gameplay mechanics, excellent gameplay and interesting story campaign. A good story campaign is also present in the Valiant, a medieval game with squads and heroes instead of big armies. These level up, unlock more advanced skills and abilities, but there is also an interesting multiplayer mode. When it comes to new games, I have talked about Crown of Greed before, but I finally got to try out its playtest, which is available right now to players who signed up, and while it is still rough around the edges, I quite liked it. It is definitely not a game that breaks RTS ground in any aspect, but it takes the formula of Majesty and runs with it well enough to keep you playing. You have your castle, your people and your tax collectors, which you protect by hiring and paying heroes of different types which need a monetary incentive to explore the wild lands around your town, defend your people and buildings or attack the enemy lairs. There are some story elements in it and characters which drop information and help move the missions along. It is still early and you shouldn't expect too much out of the game or hold it to a high standard. But there is certainly potential, and the developers have nailed down the gameplay loop rather well. Xeno Conflict is one of these totally new games I haven't talked about before in my RTS news videos or lists of upcoming games, as I felt it was too raw and there wasn't much footage or info about it. Now there is this gameplay trailer and a cinematic one on its Steam store page with a lot more information. The developers describe it as a strategic survival game in which you control different factions and fight on a new planet full of strange biological environments. It will be playable in co-op and multiplayer, while it will also feature hero units for each faction which can be used in a special game mode which plays more like a MOBA game. They themselves make sure to point out this is an alpha version of the game, so don't take everything you see for granted, and I will keep watching this game to report when there is an actual demo or playtest. This is a similar case with another new upcoming indie RTS game called Repterra, which I mentioned a while back, but whose developers posted a new trailer of their alpha gameplay. Here it isn't aliens you combat, but equally dangerous beasts from Earth's past, dinosaurs. Yes, there is a human faction as well, which is the one doing all the base building and acting as lunch for the hungry dinos. But they can turn the tables on them, lure them with food and tame them. At that point, you can even breed them by putting pairs into breeding stations. And that isn't the end of it, as the game will allow you to cross-breed dinos, add mechanical legs, flame-throwing saliva glands, even an ability to breed underwater with special experiments. At the developer's website, you can apply for a private beta and check out Repterra early while giving your feedback to the developers. This video is light on space games, so I decided to talk about the latest update to NEBULOUS Fleet Command, which is about carriers and strikecraft. It will be released on the 10th of January and bring a long-awaited addition to the gameplay of ship-to-ship combat in the space arena of NEBULOUS. These strikecraft can be refitted during a match when they are docked at the carrier, but most of the configurations are made outside between matches when you're setting up your carriers and strikecraft. These strikecraft will have fuel like in the original Homeworld game, and you can equip extra tanks. However, they reserve enough fuel to return to their carrier. All the ammo is expendable, and returning craft have to rearm as well as refuel to take off again. If the carrier's deck is damaged, they won't be able to use it. This update brings scouts, interceptors and bombers, some of which can even be added to other big ships which have enough room to attach landing docks at them. Another great game that has been out for a while in early access, but it's finally getting a full release this winter, is Age of Darkness Final Stand. The developers are including co-op multiplayer with this new version, which will complement the already existing story campaign and its main survival gameplay mode. The maps offer room for both base building and placing lots of defenses, along with exploration, which you have to do with your hero and armies to interact with the world to stop the enemies from coming back. I am personally really bad at these kinds of games, but if you enjoy them, I think you're going to like what the full release of Age of Darkness Final Stand has to offer. Now let's take a look at another game I recently found and the alpha gameplay these indie developers kindly sent over for me to share with you all. This is Timefront, a high fantasy RTS game with an immersive cinematic storytelling campaign. The other game modes are co-op challenges with Commander's progression system and custom games to enjoy with friends on maps the community can make using the editor. There is also a multiplayer mode with deck building mechanics, and developers are making this game in the Unreal Engine 5 and want to publish it as a free-to-play title. No, I do not have the info on how they plan to make a profit on it, so we will talk about that in a future video. This is very early footage I'm showing here, and there is a closed playtest running on the developer's Discord server. It will be very interesting to see what comes of this title, as it sounds both ambitious and technically demanding, especially considering the free-to-play aspect. Speaking of free-to-play, a student has launched his own 2D space game on Steam, totally for free. It is called Prince Rystiya's Starfleet, and right now it has 4 game modes for you to try it out. There is the Galactic Conquest mode, which the developer says is inspired by Total War and Star Wars Empire at War. Then the regular skirmish mode, challenge levels and a custom mode. The story is light and really just a placeholder, while there are more than 15 units, each with unique strengths and weaknesses. The game can host over 1000 units in combat on screen at the same time, while there is no armor on units, but armor value, meaning some units can't be touched by weaker weapons. The counter to that are the rapid fire weapons, being able to take down big projectiles. Since it is free, you might as well give it a try and give your feedback to this young developer. If you like the sci-fi theme, you might also want to take a look at Existence: The Outer Reach, a game in development by a solo indie dev who envisioned it as a massive scale RTS which spans the galaxy. The game will feature both space and planetary battles, single and multiplayer, with some extra game modes for each. There are going to be lots of planets to conquer, technologies to research, aliens to fight, ships to build, and space stations to capture. On top of that, there are special titans to find and use to your advantage in battles, along with many types of weapons for your ships. This one has been in development for a long time and still feels a bit too raw in some aspects, so I really hope the dev finds a way to fund the remaining development time he needs to finally finish this one. This is something huge game companies do not have to worry about, and they publish a lot of updates and DLCs, sometimes for free. This is how we got a new free mode to play in Age of Mythology Retold, called Arena of the Gods, and I want to thank one of my viewers for their comment and reminding me to mention it in my videos. How it plays out is that alone or with friends you can start 35 new skirmish missions on diverse mythological landscapes and fight to get rewards in the form of blessings from the gods. To make things more interesting, there are dynamic world twists which change battle conditions. Now there is one mod of Homeworld's Remastered edition that I wanted to show for a while now, but never seemed to find the time to do so. So this time I want to showcase these talented modders' work, at least in this short form. This is Battlestar Galactica Fleet Command, and it features a lot of content as the team has released 4 seasons of updates so far. They have made a full campaign, skirmish mode with custom fleet setups, and added 2 survival modes. They actually had even bigger plans for a new Battlestar Galactica mod in Homeworld 3 and an Expanse-inspired mod for it as well. But sadly, due to internal issues inside the team, they have decided to cancel these plans. We are left with small teasers for these mods and can only wonder what could have been as we enjoyed the Battlestar Galactica Fleet Command mod. This next game is titled Echoes of the Architects, and it is a bit different than the rest, considering it is a fast-paced auto-battler, meaning you have to plan out the battle ahead of time by customizing your units and programming them. You get to use a combination of various modules for movement, combat or special operations, which then decide what the unit can do for you in the next battle. As you play, you will unlock more of these. There is a story here, but I haven't found much info on the campaign itself. On the other hand, the indie developer behind this game mentions a synchronous multiplayer with possible battles and replayability, whatever that looks like in practice. And on the topic of games that aren't following the standard RTS gameplay loop, I wanted to show you the latest update of Space Rain. This game is all about space combat with ships of different classes and weapons that you can even fly manually. As you play, your fleet grows to a considerable size and then the game starts to play more like an RTS. With this update, the developers have added new playable ships, including heavy frigates and destroyers, as well as new weapons to equip on them. Some of these are cruise missiles, heavy cannons, and flak or laser point defense systems. Additionally, this update brings a new enemy faction, so besides the pirates, now you can engage the militaristic Tier Corporation. Many indie games never get released, but I hope MainKind RTS doesn't end up like that. It is about a war between humans, robots and mutants in a post-apocalyptic setting, and while the developers worked on its mechanics, they ran into problems. Not much new content has been shown lately due to this, but they still want to expand their team, bring new people in to contribute, and keep pushing the project forward. This is a similar story with many other games, not just the ones from the RTS genre, and goes to show you how the path to success of a few is paved by hundreds of those that never make it to release. Lastly, for the end of this video, there is one more totally new game for me to show you. It is a minimalistic base building RTS in which you construct and defend your own outpost against zombies. There are abilities for units as well as vehicles and all sorts of defensive works. Not a very unique team, I know, but let's give this indie soul dev a pat on the shoulder for making it all the way to an early access release on his own. We will be able to try this game out soon with a demo, while the release date is the 29th of January. I hope you enjoyed this video and you can check out more like it linked up here and down in the description. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!